This is another episode of peacepodcast.org, and today you are in for a treat. We have a filmmaker, Arthur Kanegis. Would you believe that his film, The Garry Davis Story, is going to be on PBS? I mean, we're talking to somebody prior to the launching of this PBS special. Arthur Kanegis is a nonprofit leader. He's a visionary. He's a man who believes, as I wrote in my peace charter, that to serve succeeding generations with a world at peace, a world beyond war, united by a global system of peacemaking with justice for all humankind. Only a filmmaker could decide that his film will do just that. Arthur, I want to welcome you here. I know you have so many ways to describe yourself, but what would you like us to know about you before we start our conversation?
I'm a good friend of a very special person, Barbara Mueller, and her husband. What a wonderful guy. It was so wonderful to know the two of you, and to know that you knew Garry Davis, the fellow we made the movie about, way back when he was starting in 1948 in Strasbourg, when your husband was inspired by him to start his path of world citizenship. So I am a filmmaker. I made a movie with Paul Newman called War Without Winners back in the 80s. It played widely on TV. I was the one who did the nuclear war research for the film the day after. Remember the missiles taking off over Kansas City? And Ronald Reagan credited that movie with being the thing that convinced him that his generals were lying to him when they said you could fight and win a nuclear war. And he knew he had to start strategic arms limitation talks with the Soviets. So I feel very proud now to have moved from that film, and a film that helped scare people into moving a little bit forward on the nuclear issue. But now we have to inspire people. We're tired of scaring people. We want to inspire them to a better way with a marvelous, uplifting story. And that's where the story of your friend and my friend, Garry Davis, comes in.
Both Arthur and I are Rotarians. I started with Rudy Westervelt, the Rotary E-Club of World Peace, because we believe that the 35,000 clubs on our planet, 35,000 Rotary clubs, can be the vehicle for world peace, and we know it can happen. As a film director, how do you see peace? You know, you've done so much, but as a director, programmer, all of the things that you do, producer, how do you feel peace is possible?
Well, I think the key to peace is vision. I think what happens when people are hopeless and they don't have a vision for the alternatives, they're feeling desperate, they're feeling their adrenaline is shot and so on, because they're focusing on the negative. And I think once we have a clear vision, I mean, think of it. Everything that we have invented in our society started with a vision. You know, that building over there was built because somebody envisioned it, and then they shared their vision with an architect, and then he did this. And Shekhar, the president-elect of Rotary for the whole world, talked about how the key to change is vision. And if we can envision and picture a world beyond these borders that are dividing us, we can do it. If we can dream it, as we can do it, as Walt Disney said, if we can dream it, we can do it.
And that's what my husband always said. Dreams are more important than almost a book learning that you can have. If you can have a dream and you can see it in your mind, that's why we had the Bench of Dreams in Costa Rica, where we started the University for Peace in Costa Rica. A bench of dreams where people would be able to sit down and hold two stones, one in each hand, and hold that bench of dreams, dream in their mind. And when they saw it visually, they threw one stone to the earth, and the other stone they took home to remember their dream. And I'll never forget, the ambassador from Costa Rica from the United Nations came in and said to us in the delegates lounge at the UN, "Guess what I have in my purse?" And we said, "What do you have?" She said, "Let me show you." She opened up her purse and she pulled out the stone that she had used to make her dream for world peace as an ambassador. And so you see, Arthur, vision, dreams all come true when you are so involved in your vision and what you want the world to be. So how do you see your movie? The World Is My Country, World Citizen #1, Garry Davis. Talk about your movie and how proud we are that you're going to be on PBS.
Well, I love what Shekhar said about it. He said, you know, he was so moved by it because of Garry's vision. And he quoted Gandhi, and he quoted John Lennon. You know, imagine there are no countries. Imagine all the people living life in peace. And I think that our film is about an amazing man who was a song and dance man on Broadway. He was destined for a Broadway career, stood in for Danny Kaye, but the war came along. He had to bomb the city of Brandenburg. His own brother was killed, and he was so torn up about killing people. I'm here to entertain him. I'm not here to blow him up. And when he saw the world heading toward, after Hiroshima, nuclear annihilation, he said, I have to do something. But what can I do? I'm just an actor. So he went to Paris, where the UN was meeting before it went to New York, and he pulls off this grand act of political theater. You won't believe it when you see it in the movie. I mean, it's a stunning act. It riveted Europe. It riveted all the nations of the world. He got a great applause. He actually, we know how Greta and others have talked to UN leaders. Well, he actually talked to the entire United Nations, and he was helped actually to play a role, you'll see in the film, in helping inspire the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And Barbara says in our film, in the climax, that he actually inspired the leaders of the European Union. And now he can inspire us to do something much grander, and that is to rise above these borders dividing us and come together and actually build that world of peace, security, of a clean and beautiful planet for all of us. And we can do it, folks. It's only broken systems standing in our way. When we create the systems we want, the bottom-up global democracy, a new kind of democracy, of Ryan for the people, not win-lose, one side wins, but like you've done, Barbara, revolutionary conversations, these Zoom meetings, all over the world, coming together and building a consensus, a vision of what we, the people of the world, want. When we bring together our visions, we will create it. So this is an incredible opportunity for you to get in on the ground floor of watching this very important movie before it's even shown on PBS, by coming to our GoFundMe and helping to be a part of getting this thing shown very widely to people around the world.
So we can go on GoFundMe, and you have a little blurb there that we can watch, and then we can contribute to your product?
The best way to do it is to go to the name of the film, theworldismycountry.com. Here, it's right here on my t-shirt. There we go. theworldismycountry.com.
And you are
go there,
.org, right?
theworldismycountry.com/Rotary. That means you put a / and you write the word Rotary, lowercase. It has to be lowercase. Or lowercase Rotary. And if you do that, you'll see our GoFundMe. That's a shortcut because the GoFundMe number is a little too complicated for people to remember. But that'll take you there, and you'll be able to put in $5, $50, $100, any amount you put in will help us get this amazing film. And you will get to see it now before it's shown on public broadcasting. You don't have to wait for April when it's going to be shown in Earth Month, or for the 3 years replays after that. You'll be able to watch it right here and now and join us.
So when you say right here and now, you're going to tell us how we do that, and we'll put it up underneath your podcast?
Yes, if you put that worldismycountry.com/Rotary, when you go there, you'll see how you can join in the GoFundMe and get to see the movie immediately.
Oh, I'm so glad. That is wonderful. I have a starring role. I am probably one of the last people that speaks in that movie, because Garry Davis came to visit us with Melanie, a producer with Arthur, to my home in Santa Barbara. And they came to say they were sorry that Robert had passed. Robert, my dear husband, Robert Mueller, died in 2010. And when they came in, we had lunch, and then we went into the archives. And there Garry said, I remember your husband. I remember the work he did at the United Nations. And Arthur said, yes, I do too. And Melanie was there. And then they asked me, what do I think about Garry Davis? To imagine standing next to Garry Davis, who stood on the border between. Talk a little bit about that. How did he do that? What was he so famous for?
Well, after he pulled off this grand act of political theater in Paris and riveted war-weary Europe and got 20,000 people rallying with him, people wanted him to be kind of their leader. And he said, wait a minute, that's not what this is about. This is not about putting power in the hands of one person, even if it's me. He said, no, all of it, it's up to all of us. I'm not going to stay here and be a world leader. I'm going to go to Germany and go to the city that I bombed and rebuild houses there. And so he tried, of course, to get a visa to Germany, but since he had become the first world citizen, he had no citizenship in any country around the world. He couldn't get a visa, a passport, so they wouldn't let him in. He went to the border and he said, well, look, here's this new Universal Declaration of Human Rights you just passed. It says right here in Article 14B, it says everyone has a right to leave their country and return, to go to any country and return. And that's right there in the Declaration of Human Rights. So I should be allowed to come in. And they said, oh, no, well, we don't quite know about how to recognize that. And so he said, well, that's no problem. You know, he went back to the French guy. Can I come have a visa to come back into France? No way. He had been ordered to leave. They gave him a refuse de séjour. My French pronunciation is wrong, but that's the idea. And so he said, well, that's no problem. I'll just live right here. So he set up a tent and started living right there on the borderline. And that's when your husband discovered him, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. In fact, not only did he discover him, he sat there with him at that time, but he had to go do his other work. So he didn't stay as long as Garry did. How long did Garry actually sit there?
Garry was 2 months in the middle of the winter until he got pneumonia. And he actually met the woman he fell in love with, his future wife, there on the border. And she got him to a hospital. She actually got the police, who were kind of keeping him there, to help him get him to a hospital because he had, everybody liked him, even though they were, didn't know what to do with him. So they got him to a hospital.
That's the right way, yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up, while he was in the hospital, kids were playing around this little cabin he had, and it caught fire. And he said, that was a sign for me. I have to go back. So he went back to the U.S., and there's a wonderful interview on the boat where they ask him, well, are you going to continue your world citizen movement in the U.S.? And he said, my movement, you imply that I'm a leader. I'm just one of the world citizens among the community of world citizens. And he said, it's really up to all of you. He kept turning it back to all of you. In fact, that even happened with an incredible scene in the movie where Eleanor Roosevelt, who was, of course, a first lady, but she was also the U.S. delegate who was the architect and pushed through that Universal Declaration of Human Rights. After his big interruption, she wrote a My Day column across the country saying the UN was not set up to be a government. It was a place for people to get together, let off steam, nations, so they're talking instead of battling. And she said, if Garry and his associates want a global government, she said, how much better it would be if Mr. Davis would start then and there a worldwide international government. Well, he was kind of floored. He said, I don't think she was really talking to me. She was talking to all of you. She's saying every one of you has to take responsibility for creating peace on this planet.
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to quote from my wonderful peace charter for we the people of planet Earth. And I say wonderful because I had a lot of help writing this. To realize that a culture of peace takes many participants and many forms. Garry knew that. Garry didn't want to be the leader. He wanted everybody to lead themselves toward peace. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. And in our film, at I think just before you give the wonderful climax of the movie, but I asked Leonardo DiCaprio, I say, because he talks about how we're at the 11th hour and humanity's, in deep trouble. And I said, well, in the movies at the 11th hour, just when things look darkest and there's no hope, a hero comes along to save us. Who's the hero who can save us? And he gives a beautiful answer. He says, the hero is all of us. It takes every one of you. And he goes on beautifully talking about how all of us have to be a part of this movement to save our planet, the earth, the air, the water we breathe. This is our planet. And so this is the key, folks. And this film can be a powerful tool for you to use each person listening to this can use this tool to reach others and draw them into this kind of out of this separation and division and strife into a confidence and a knowingness that we the people can heal and build a united world.
What a beautiful concept, to have a united world built on the concept of peace. You are going to love this movie. If you see the movie that Arthur put together firsthand, and just have a conversation with your family, have a conversation with others who have watched it. The whole purpose of peacepodcast.org is a conversation starter. Each of us has a role on this planet. Each of us can bring peace to wherever we are. Arthur, I want to have you finish this conversation because I'm going to ask you once again, tell us how we can see your film, and then what is your dream for our planet now that I know your passion?
Well, of course, the key to watching it again is theworldismycountry.com, and then a /Rotary. Barbara will put it right at the bottom of the podcast here.
Uh-huh.
And that takes you to the GoFundMe. It also takes you to the marvelous discussion we had with Shekhar Mehta, the president of Rotary International for the whole world, who is with us on this path. He's part of it. And I think the key that, what's happening right now, we see all over the world, people in these Zoom conferences. Well, Garry envisioned a completely new form of governance. Instead of win-lose, and instead of having to send representatives who can get corrupted by money in politics, every one of us is involved in these kind of interactive, he called them synergy meetings. He called them synergy with integrity, where we're coming together across the divides. Say you and I in this podcast have, an Arab and a Jew, people on the red and green states, people on opposite sides, and they use your kind of revolutionary conversations and other tools to come together and reach a consensus, not about who's right and who's wrong. You forget that, about what is it we want in our lives. And we start finding that humanity all over has a common dream of what we want. We want a better life for our children. We want a safe and secure planet. We want clean water, clean air. And when we start coming together in what we want and building this new interactive system, and then giving it the force of law, see, that's the key. Law comes from the people. I mean, the Constitution says it is the right of the people to institute new government. And, Garry said, don't hit your head against the wall trying to beg and plead. These people, these leaders who are part of the broken nation states and have a loyalty to the part, not the whole. We, the people, are the ones who represent the whole. So let's just come together, folks. Let's just do it. Don't fight the old. Do like Bucky Fuller said. You never change things by fighting the old system. You create something new that's so exciting and wonderful that draws people to it. So come join us in this adventure. We have an ongoing weekly podcast. Barbara has been a part of it. Shekhar is a part of it. You'll see Rudy, many others in it. And this podcast is where we interactively bring together solutionaries. And each week we meet, you can actually join the club or go down to the Try It Out free and join it. And you'll hear wonderful solutionaries answering that very question you asked, Barbara. How do we put together, what is our vision for the kind of world we want? Everyone knows what we don't want. They're always protesting all the things we don't want. Now let's come together and build a vision of what we do.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You're referring to People-Powered Planet, correct? For your
yes, that URL will add also. It's just peoplepoweredplanet.com. We are the people who have to power this planet. People powered with an ED, planet.com.
And he has a weekly podcast, as I do. His is on Wednesday. Mine's on whenever we put it up on our Peace podcast. And his are also recorded. So if you've been really wanting to hear Shekhar, our new president-elect for Rotary, go to People Powered Planet and pay attention. I'm Barbara Gonmuller, and I want to thank you for joining us today. As Garry Davis said, as Arthur has said, it's up to each of us to be the peace that other people need. Recently, I was doing a podcast with 2 or 3 people, and they said, peace begins with me. And I really believe that when you're at peace, you feel that, you bring that peace to anybody you're with, and you can then have that presence of mind to bring peace to all. Arthur, it's been a pleasure.
Love you, Barbara.
I can hardly wait for the PBS stations, and that will be going on for 3 years. So be sure.
Yeah, it starts in April, but the contract's for 3 years. They can keep rerunning it and showing it, and so we'll continue to do the good. So be a part of it. Come to our GoFundMe and build the world we choose.
Build the world we choose. What a beautiful statement. I'm Barbara Gonmuller, and we do Peace Podcasts for health, peace, and healthy living and happiness. Think about it. If you are happy, we can't have war. If you're happy, we have to have peace. With that, I'm going to say thank you, Arthur. You've been fantastic.
Okay, you too, Barbara.
All right, lots of love to all of you. People, watch People Powered Planet and watch peacepodcast.org. Lots of love. See you next time.